Welcome to the Dynasty Happy Hour podcast. Pull up a chair and kick up your feet as you get ready to enjoy some of the industry's most entertaining and actionable Dynasty content on the planet. We're talking veterans, rookies, sleepers, and oh yeah, you know the crew has those dad jokes ready for you. So let's not wait any longer and bring on the host or some combination of Doug, James, and Tyler.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyler from the Dynasty Happy Hour, and welcome to show 300. Yes, that is right, show 300. I just want to, first of all, say thank you to everybody listening. I know we probably got people that listened since episode 1. I'm talking about you, Jason Thomas, the first ever fan I ever met on Twitter. But it has been a journey. Show 300, it feels like show 200 was just not long ago. But you know what? I'm going to bring on my co-host tonight. Yes, Doug is gone. He's spending some time with the lady, which, by the way, I want to tell everybody, Mother's Day, we are going to take off because you know what? There's nothing more important than being with our significant other and our wives and pampering them as much as we can for the day. So we will not have an episode next week, but we will go full blown at it the week after. We will give you everything you guys need, which we got a fun episode that week. James, you wanna let them know what we're gonna do that week?
We got a little food comp going on.
Yeah,
a little food competition.
The animal comps, but we started running out of animal comps. Like you can only have so many animal comps. And Matt Price, we had on a bunch of times, even said after the last episode, he said, "You guys, like, it's getting a little dull because you can only compare to so many animals." So what we got from the Alfredo episode is food comps. Like, how cool would food comps be? So tell them the guests.
I mean, we're going to comp players to food, right?
Yes. Well, yes. And we are bringing on Scott Simpson and Bo. What's Bo's last name?
Bo McBride. Bo Big Time on Twitter.
Yeah. He
There we
does
go.
the hot
I'm
sauces.
back. I'm sorry.
He does the cooking. And James, you used to be a chef.
Name is Chef.
But yeah, it's going to be fun. We are going to give you a 2-round mock and compare all of our picks to food and also give you some actual, advice about the players, not just to be like, we're not trying to just make you hungry.
I mean, what better conversation? I mean, there's going to be some spice. Okay. We got some spicy
100%.
rookies that we're talking about. It's going to be rookie season from now until June. We're going to give you some good stuff. Can't wait to get into it. For those of you that are on Twitter or YouTube right now, hit that like and subscribe button. Tyler's overselling it a little bit.
But yeah, it's going to be a great episode. And once again, thank you guys for listening since, episode 1 to 300. But let's bring on our guest. Speaking of rookie drafts, I'm in one right now with Memphis. I think he enjoys watching me make pick after pick before him just because I'm trading up all the time. But it's a good friend of ours. He's got the Jiffy Lube story. Only, I got to meet him in person in Canton. It's an honor to be around him all the time. I love this guy like a brother. Memphis, welcome on to episode 300 in Dynasty Happy Hour.
Well, thank you for having me. And I think all of us are playing a little hurt tonight. Everybody's got some sort of ear infection, sinus infection, cough, but I wouldn't have missed episode 300. It's an honor to be here. And yes, one day we will share the fabled Jiffy Lube bathroom story here or somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, first of all of your listeners, when your rookie draft starts, be the Tyler of your rookie draft. And by that,
maybe.
I mean, that is, keep the chat going, get the trades out there, have fun. Tyler is a great league mate and a great commissioner in this league. So as your rookie draft season starts popping off, remember to be the catalyst and the spark for action in your league. And that's what I take away from rookie drafts with you.
Yeah, they're always fun and always interesting. Yeah, I've got 6 going right now, and I have another couple starting later on. But yeah, it's an interesting draft, and we will get into all the picks. But first, we are brought to you by fantasypoints.com. Fantasy Points, you guys, is a great tool to use. The draft is over, but it's always good to look at Greg Cosell's draft kit. You want to know why? Because say you're in a rookie draft, let's see what he thinks about these players. Say you're deciding between Jameson, Williams, and Burks, and you're sitting there thinking, who should I pick? Well, he can give you a good answer because this man has done it for years and years and years. And you can do this by using code DHH22 at fantasypoints.com. Get a little money off your subscription. And also they got DFS tools that you will use easily. It's great. I'm telling you guys, you need to go to fantasypoints.com, use code DHH22. And yeah, I mean, should we just jump right into this?
Yeah, I think the news should just like get it going.
Yes. First of all,
let's just light it up because you know last week we had AJ Brown in the news, and now this week AJ Brown is back in the news.
Philadelphia fans rejoice. They thought they're going to use a pick on a wide receiver. They did by trading for one of the league's best receivers in AJ Brown. AJ Brown to the Eagles. He also gets a 4-year, $100 million deal. They gave up the number 18 overall pick and a 3rd-round pick. This was after selecting the Georgia big man to eat up the run game. I mean, Eagles defense got better. Their offense got better. No more excuses for Jalen Hurts. I mean,
I like this for Jalen Hurts, by the way.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, that's all we can really hope. We hope he takes a step forward. Now, Memphis, I'm going to get your thoughts on this because I'm not 100% sure you're the biggest Jalen Hurts guy.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
Well, I'm anti Jalen Hurts real football. I'm fine with Jalen Hurts for fantasy football.
Okay.
Those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but for Dynasty, what we do, this is going to be the year because this is basically the contract year for Jalen Hurts. If he doesn't perform, I believe Philadelphia still has multiple firsts and multiple seconds next year. Next year, I believe it was Cody Carpentier from Roto Underworld was posting like a picture of quarterbacks for next year's draft. And like the top 5 or 6 all could be potentially 1st-round picks. So if Hurts doesn't do his thing this year, they're going to have the ammunition and the ability to move up. So I would tell you in season, you have to be able to distinguish between fantasy and reality. And if they're struggling, then know that that he's going to get replaced. And if you can trade him like midway through the season, that might be what you do, but I still think he's going to be a top 5 QB. As far as Brown, I mean, kind of the same thing. If Hurts is not performing well, then it'll hurt his value for a year, but he's only going into year 4 of his career, still super young. So Jalen Hurts could only hurt him for 1 year, in my opinion, because if Hurts is still bad, they'll have a new QB in 2023, and you'll still have AJ Brown right in his prime. So going to be fascinating in Philadelphia. No excuses.
No excuses.
With Smith.
They have a good offensive arsenal.
Goddard, and now AJ Brown. That's as good of a big three.
I hear rumors of Rager being cut.
Yeah, I mean,
are already out there.
He already hasn't. So
I mean, he's the new Corey Coleman, right? John Doxson.
Yeah. So also, Chef, there's another Brown receiver that got traded. Marquis Brown. He went to Arizona to pair up with Kyler Murray. Now, Brown was traded for pretty much what he was drafted at. Baltimore got a 1st-round pick this year, the 23rd overall pick, which they use on a stud center, which will solidify that running game, and also a 22 third. Marquis Hollywood Brown. What do you think about that trade? I'm gonna just cut in here. I love it for Hollywood. I think the connection for the two are great, but Hopkins is still there. He's getting older. What is your thought on the trade?
Well, you see how he did that, Memphis? He asks a question, tells us his opinion, and then expects us to come up with, something better. Right out the gate, I like it for Kyler Murray. All right. It gives him another sharp target. He knows that offense. I think he's gonna do well in Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins, we may see some less out of him. We don't even know how good he is coming back. He was still injured at the end of last season. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on. I've gotten rid of all my DeAndre Hopkins shares. So Marquise Brown may be the next best player in that offense.
I think it's perfect for him because he's a number 2 receiver. He should have never been a number 1 in the first place. He should have never been the first wide receiver taken in that draft.
Yeah, he was never a number 1. He was always a number 2 receiver. He just needed somebody else.
So for me, this is a perfect situation. Also, I was thinking to myself, what if the Eagles don't like next year's draft class and trade for Kyler? Say Kyler falls apart. Eagles trade for Kyler.
I don't see that happening.
Well, then they would have to figure out how to mix in his pay.
That's 100% true. Yeah,
because you just gave they just extended several players and the offensive line and a couple other guys, and
not real Memphis.
It's not. I will agree with that. Teams that want to find a way do. It seems like teams like my Colts that hoard cap space and teams like the Jets that hoard picks just typically aren't any good. Where they're in the middle, they're stuck in the middle. But teams that that throw caution to the wind, whether it be cap caution or risking picks, tend to be the teams that tend to win. So I didn't hate this move, but this is what this felt like to me. You guys ever done something stupid with your wife or significant other?
Of course,
every day.
And like you make like a half-hearted attempt to do something to win favor. That's what it felt the Cardinals did for Kyler Murray. It's like, hey, we know you're mad about not getting the money you want right now. So what we did is we gave up the 23rd overall pick for Marquis Brown with like a little bit more would have got us AJ Brown. But we did something. It's an olive branch.
Yeah.
We're not giving you the money.
And on the other side of that, Lamar Jackson came out and he was pissed. Absolutely pissed.
They supposedly said he knew about it, which I could see he knew about it, but also I get why he's pissed. You know what, Lamar? Just feed Mark Andrews. Just give Rashad Bateman. I mean, this is arrow up for Rashad Bateman.
Rashad Bateman time.
Arrow up for Mark Andrews, and they drafted like 2 tight ends. So this is.
I mean, it's very, very Ravens. No wide receivers in a wide receiver rich draft.
Yeah,
but it's not like Lamar uses the wide receiver heavily anyway.
100%.
I'm curious. I'm fascinated by this, and I think the biggest winner in Baltimore, in my opinion, is actually J.K. Dobbins more than anyone else. There was rumors beforehand that they could bring in a day 2 running back, which would have been a second or a third round running back, and for them not to have done that, that's big things for J.K. Dobbins.
They got Tyler Batty in the 6th round, which is a pretty good running back. He's a pass catcher. Lamar doesn't throw to a running back, but you know what? He does throw a tight end, and he will throw plenty to Rashad Bateman. So also, I want to bring up Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack, yes, a longtime sponsor. Upgrade your fantasy league today with any sport you can find imaginable. You can even customize the belt to actual wrestling. Say you have a wrestling belt and you want to actually put wrestling on there. You know what? You can do that. And you use code DHHRING and get yourself a free ring. I have a ring. I love it. It's on my desk. It's for my Trade Addict 7 championship, which is a league I'm in with Memphis. He's a 2-time champ, but thank God we didn't have to play him in the playoffs because you know what? Doug and I took down Riley Bymaster for the title. It's a great thing to have on the desk, kind of to remind you how awesome you are. So getting that for free and then having a belt in the league is so good. So use code DHHRING and get that $60 championship ring for free. All right, guys, let's get right into this draft. We have a lot to go over and a lot to let the people know what we think. So at pick 108, my Atlanta Falcons take Drake London. So Drake London was not my wide receiver 1 on my board. He wasn't even my wide receiver 2 pre-draft. This is a little biased to me. Now, Memphis, we are in a draft right now, the UDPL draft. I trade up to pick 103. And I was actually going to take a quarterback. I was like, I need a quarterback. But you know what? I second guessed it. And I'm like, I'm not going to have any Drake London in the league. There's no way I'm getting him in any league. So I took him at 103. And I was very happy about it. It was the first wide receiver off the board. Now, Memphis, I know this about you. You are not a Drake London guy. You think he's a bust. But you know what? When you've got that type of target share, I don't think he's going to bust. He could be Mike Williams. He could also be better than that. Now, what is your thought on Drake London?
My biggest fear is he didn't run at his pro day, which I know he was coming off of the ankle injury, but this is a guy, I mean, we're just talking about the ankle injury. This is a guy who's never played double-digit games in college. I don't know that he's played double-digit games since high school. And now we're going to ask this
neither have I.
No, and you didn't get drafted 108 overall by the Atlanta Falcons. You should have, absolutely. And that's the part that makes me nervous. He didn't run. He's not exactly beat the best corners in college football in the Pac-12, I guess it is now, but just a lot of red flags. We'll talk about Treylon Burks here in a bit. I had to move him up, but I moved London down. Actually, I have him below the 107. I know that you're probably not a fan of that take. It just feels like there's other wide receivers I'd rather have.
I think people are just going after the draft capital right now. I think Drake London's a great wide receiver. He's going to score some touchdowns for you. Big, tall body, back of the end zone, 6'5", giant hands,
a ton of targets.
Yeah, especially I think they drafted him seriously for the red zone. I mean, you got to remember the number one wide receiver on that team is still Kyle Pitts, and we saw how much he got fed last year. I doubt. Yeah, well, okay. They need somebody to take the heat off him. I think Drake London can do that. He works well on crossing routes. So I think he can add to the pie in Atlanta.
And I don't mind this move as a team that, I mean, I don't know how much we'll talk about Desmond Ridder, but, for the QB of the future, which I believe Atlanta will be drafting this time next year, you sure want that guy to walk in and have something to throw to. That potential QB of the future. You don't want him getting the Justin Fields treatment where you literally have nobody. Yeah. I mean, at least a future rookie in Atlanta would have Drake, would have Pitts, would be getting Calvin Ridley back from suspension more than likely. At least then you have some pieces to work with as opposed to just nothing. I've never been a fan of getting the quarterback on a team and then waiting until year 2, 3 of his rookie deal to add things around him. At least this potential rookie, whether it be Ridder or someone else, at least they're walking in and the cabinet's not all the way bare.
Yeah, and going to Ridder, we might as well talk about him now. He was He was a third round pick 78. With him, I think he starts earlier than people think. Mariota is made of plexiglass. Like, this dude gets hurt all the time. Actually, I don't know if plexiglass is actually a good explanation of.
I think it's glass.
Just glass.
Yeah, just you porcelain. Bounce off a plexiglass.
There we go. Porcelain. I mean,
porcelain works.
Fine china.
I mean, Memphis, you have a collection of porcelain dolls, so
absolutely, they are delicate and dainty, which is pretty much how I would describe Marcus Mariota. But more than that, I mean, outside of Pickett, he had the second highest draft capital of any rookie QB in his class, and it's not a stretch to say that Atlanta could be bad this year. And no one on a bad team is more popular than the backup quarterback. And I think it'll be week 8-ish. Where the local media and the local fans will be like, all right, let's give this rookie a chance. Let's see what we got. And, we've seen this narrative before. Sugar glass. I think that's what they use in movies.
Yeah.
I think that's what candy's made out of.
Yes. I'm grown sugar.
I think Ridder starts earlier than expected. And I really like that pick. I think, in my opinion, if it were a super flex draft, I'd be perfectly fine with passing up a quarterback and then capitalizing on Riddler.
The Riddler? Is that what we're going to call him now?
Early second, or Memphis's case, 111.
I will not be using the 111 in our shared draft on Ridder, but I do agree. I think he's the value in the second round. Yeah. When you get to that range, I think he is the guy because we've seen what head coach / offensive coordinator Arthur Smith has done with a mobile quarterback in a Ryan Tannehill. And let's be honest, it wouldn't be the first time Arthur Smith has demoted Marcus Mariota. He did it once in Tennessee, which is ironic that he's the projected starter in Atlanta under Arthur Smith now. So I agree with you guys, and I would not be just stunned or shocked if this time next year we're talking about Desmond Ridder in the same vein in which we're talking about Jalen Hurts, where they may roll with him again in 2023. And I think that's where the value will come in that early to mid-second round with a Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, I love that take. Now we'll move on to pick 110 in the NFL draft, and that is my wide receiver 1, Garrett Wilson. Unfortunately, he's catching passes from Zach Wilson, who I think is ungood. So that is to be seen. But for Garrett Wilson, the draft capital is phenomenal. I was upset about the Drake London pick because Garrett Wilson was on the board. If Garrett Wilson wasn't there, fine.
Garrett Wilson was also your number 1 wide receiver. Is he still your number 1 wide receiver now?
Yes.
Still, okay.
Yes.
Even with the competition of Elijah Moore?
If you did not sell Elijah Moore before this draft, I'm so sorry. But Elijah Moore, he's gonna be stuck in a role. They got Corey Davis, and we're gonna talk about another weapon they picked in the early second round. That is going to catch passes, and also Michael Carter. And let's not forget about the tight end. We'll mention him too. But this has become a crowded offense. It went from being Elijah Moore because Corey Davis couldn't stay on the field to now a multitude of weapons. So my opinion, I think the biggest piece is going to go to Garrett Wilson because he was drafted early. So if it were me, I'm going to put my chips in that bag because of his tape. I think he's a slightly poor man's Justin Jefferson. I think Jefferson's smoother, but Garrett Wilson, in my opinion, has all the traits like he did coming out. So for me, yeah, he's my wide receiver 1. Am I going to have to take the hit of Zach Wilson for a couple more years? Hey, maybe he progresses and becomes what they hope he is. But what is your guys' thoughts on Garrett Wilson to the Jets?
I mean, I like the player. I love the talent. He was definitely high on my list. If not my number 1, he was my number 2. Very, very close. I'm not, like you said, it's crowded. I agree with those thoughts there. I think there's some other players that I could actually pick ahead of him now. I think he lost some stock going into a crowded offense. And I'm not sure if Zach Wilson can even really play. We saw his backup quarterbacks outplay him last season. Both of them, for that matter. So I don't know if Zach Wilson's the fit. Maybe the Jets sink for another year and take a quarterback next year and say, we gave you all the weapons and that's it.
I think Zach Wilson will get at least the third year crack at this offense, like a Sam Darnold, like a Daniel Jones. He's going to get at least the third year. But the Jets were top 10 in pass attempts last year. It really comes down to me is how do they squeeze out Braxton Berrios? I know this is not a Braxton Berrios. Yeah, I mean, Braxton Berrios, they re-signed him in the offseason. And, he did collect targets. But Zach Wilson did play better down the stretch. And this is a team that's going to be behind. And what do teams that are behind a lot do? They throw the ball. So for me, it's really going to come down to how they use Garrett Wilson. I'm going to be fascinated to see this offense in the preseason. He's still my wide receiver 1 in the class. I'm not going to let the landing spot deter me, but I don't love it because if you go to like a player profile or any, metrics comp site with Elijah Moore, he was drafted with the second pick of the second round last year. That's pretty high draft capital. And then you mentioned Corey Davis, and I mentioned Braxton Berrios, and they brought in CJ Uzoma and Tyler Conklin. And then they drafted a third tight end in the third round in Jeremy Ruckert. And then they drafted Breece Hall.
I love Jeremy Ruckert.
I was going to come in on the Breece Hall.
This is a very, very complicated offense. And until we actually see what it shakes out, I actually think Zach Wilson may be the biggest winner of this entire Jets offense, but I don't know. I'll throw it back to you guys.
Yeah, let's just kind of go off
Breece.
Of
I think they feed Breece. I think let's kind
of go off of the offense pick, and then Breece Hall. I mean, how much is Carter going to eat into him, or vice versa?
I think he's normal with. I mean, he shared time in North Carolina, right?
Carter, yeah, with Javonte, but
with Javonte Williams. So I think,
as much as Naheem Hines hurt Jonathan Taylor,
yeah,
this is a Shanahan. I mean, I'm not going to let a guy drafted in the 4th round stop me from taking it. This is very reminiscent of what you're going to hear with Kenneth Walker. what you heard a couple of years ago with Miles Sanders, what you heard, 2 years ago with Jonathan Taylor. These guys that are drafted in what I like to consider that running back sweet spot from like 32 to like 45, which is all those guys, Sanders, JT, Javonte Williams, now Breece Hall, now Kenneth Walker. That's the sweet spot. That's the new way. And I guess we can kind of throw in Najee Harris, who was taken 25 last year. That's a team's way of saying, hey, this is our dude. We're taking this dude here. It's the new sweet spot for running backs. I think as dynasty GMs, sometimes we get a little full of ourselves and think, we know more than these GMs. They're telling us something. And we have about a half a decade now of GMs and NFL teams saying that the guys drafted in this range are going to be used like this. And it's not going to stop me one bit from taking him. And I do like Michael Carter. I've traded for Michael Carter in a lot of spots. But, yeah, this is clearly a Breece Hall backfield.
Yeah, and you actually heard rumors that they tried trading back into the first for a fourth time to take Breece Hall. There was talks of that, and that came out when I think they were interviewing Breece himself. He was talking about how they tried to trade back in to get him and how he's just excited to be a Jet. And it seemed like they wanted him. And like you said, the fact that Shanahan's system usually is like a late day pick. They run that guy. The fact that they went for an early day running back says a lot. And this offensive line should be better, which is good. Mekhi Becton, hopefully they figure out that stuff because he could be an all-pro tackle. But yeah, and Jeremy Rucker, I think, is a really good sleeper. And
he's a taxi stash like I've never seen it. And I want to give you hope. From week 13 through week 18, no rookie QB scored more fantasy points than Zach Wilson. So this could be a good thing, not only for Zach Wilson with the addition of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, but if you can get some cheap Zach Wilson out there, may not be a bad time. Over those 5 games, he averaged 15 points a game. So not too shabby.
Yeah, it's not bad, but 15 points a game at quarterback, you're kind of hoping for that 20 and above. So, like you said,
I would agree, but it's better than Trevor Lawrence's 9.5 or Mac Jones's 11.2. I mean,
that's true.
More
and
than
most
Fields,
would make the argument that you would want Mac Jones over Zach Wilson.
Why wouldn't you? But if that's the perception,
stability.
But we've kind of seen Mac Jones's ceiling, and I don't think we've seen Zach Wilson's, especially. I mean, he didn't get Tyquan Thornton, I know, so we'll have to live with that. But
can you believe that? That might have been the worst pick of the draft.
Volus Jones would like a word, sir.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's get back into this draft. Chris Olave, the pick at 111. They traded up with Washington. They probably thought Washington was going to take him. Chris Olave, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. He's fine here. It's fine.
It matches. I think it matches. They always were looking for that secondary wide receiver in New Orleans.
Like wide receiver 7 for me in this class.
I mean, it's not a bad fit. All right, Michael Thomas, they're matching guys up. They want a young guy and an old guy. Michael Thomas is.
They got it wrong. Usually, it's a quarterback it's a quarterback that played with him in college.
Winston? That's what it is.
What they usually do is they go, okay, he played with him in college. But you know what? You can't Michael Thomas went to Ohio State. So you know what? We are going to go get an Ohio State receiver. Like, they're doing it wrong. That's what I meant. The Saints are outsmarting themselves.
A couple of things on the Saints, not really about Olave. I'm kind of with you guys. He's fine. The guy that I've been trying to get is Adam Troutman. He's the post-hype sleeper that I'm trying to get there in New Orleans. And I think if you've got cheap Jameis Winston in a super flex, this is good news, not only from having an additional target, but this is a team that gave up their first next year, a second in 2024. Yeah. We talked earlier about how the Eagles will have more draft capital to go up and make a move on a rookie. You know who won't have money to, or picks to go up and get a rookie next year? It'll be the Saints. They'll lack the draft capital. So this looks
Ian
like
Book, so they're good.
Ian Book is a backup. You got Tyson Hill, Jameis Winston. What's not to worry about?
Oh man! All right, we are going to move on. Chris Olave, like I said, he's a pick. He was picked at 111 in the NFL draft. That is a perfect slot for him in rookie drafts. Is around 111 in my opinion. Next pick, surprise pick, Jameson Williams, pick 112. Vikings, why are you trading within her division and not getting the bag? That was my most frustrating part in this whole entire draft. Here come the Vikings trading with the Packers and Detroit Lions, and it just seems like they didn't get anything. They just got, a couple picks here, a couple picks there. It was, you should have heard the place I was at when the Vikings trade back and they saw what we got. It was not a happy place. So, Jameson Williams, the speedster out of Alabama, the rumors say he's going to be 100%, quote unquote, in around October. Now, Memphis, this is your guy. You do like Jameson Williams.
I do, and I currently have it as my wide receiver 2 in the class, but I think he is the class of this wide receiver class. And I think he's easily the first wide receiver off the board if he never tears that ACL. He's got what the NFL loves. He has speed, and I've heard some less than flattering comps. I've heard other sites call him Henry Ruggs plus, but
no,
I just see a guy who wins the way the modern NFL wants to win. And again, first of all, Jared Goff will be serviceable for everybody in that offense in Detroit. But this is a great time. He was actually, I'm in multiple drafts going on, but I've only been on the clock on one so far. And at the 104, I pushed the button on Jameson Williams. So I'm a big fan. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting offense. Yeah. And I think if you're in a super flex and you're a contender and you have a mobile quarterback, you have a Lamar, you have a Kyler, you have a Josh Allen, and you want a nice, safe backup, Jared Goff is a 1-year rental now before a quarterback gets injured. Jared Goff in a super flex is, worthy of stashing on the back end of a roster in case somebody gets hurt, especially if one of your key players is mobile or you have Watson who's a suspension risk.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? This division is going to go through Detroit in 2 years. 100%.
Talk about building a roster, man.
And people had off the field issues with Jameson Williams. That should be gone after Detroit because, they're wondering about the transfer. Why did he transfer out? Well, it was playing time. And then there's rumors like, well, he didn't get along with teammates and stuff. Dan Campbell does not draft people like that. And the fact that he traded up to go get this receiver, Dan Campbell, at all people, this is huge. And yeah, like you said, it's good news for Goff. Chef, quick.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about it because, they spend the first round pick and you said he's not going to be better until October. So that means he's not getting any time in camp.
Detroit ain't competing in this division.
They're not competing. Exactly. So are you willing to wait a full year and risk?
I don't think you have to wait a full year
to get back on your value.
I don't think so either.
I mean, he's a first round pick in Dynasty rookie drafts right now.
In my opinion, you have to wait, kind of like you did with OBJ.
You're gonna have to wait until he comes around. And they do have another wide receiver there that did very well last year in Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And they got DJ Chark.
And they added DJ Chark. So this offense may look more competitive than we actually think it is, if that's what we're saying. Because they almost beat a lot of teams last year. Remember that opener? They went back and forth with the 49ers.
Yeah.
Should have beat the Ravens.
Nice thing is, though,
they had some shots. I think they're more competitive than people think.
The nice thing is about Williams is he's super young. He's one of the younger receivers in this draft class. Not Drake London babyface young, because that guy is 20 years old. In my opinion, Williams, I agree. He's a sit stash type guy. Don't expect anything from him.
Yeah, don't expect anything from him this year.
But Detroit also has draft capital. They have capital to where they can go get a quarterback. They might even be in the same spot next year. There's about 5 quarterbacks that are good. And heck, maybe
it's Baker. Maybe it's Baker.
Maybe they're a team that trades for Kyler if he's unhappy or something like that. They go a different route, but they have options. They are great in the cap. They have good options. That defense should be better. That team.
And before you transition away, I mean, Kyler is the right height to bite kneecaps in Detroit. I mean, this is
perfect. Now let's give that some respect. Level. He might need to jump a little.
Rip up a shin.
Because he's going to be on the ground complaining that somebody made a mistake or something like that. So that's why.
Hollywood Brown runs the wrong route.
Yeah.
Told you to run straight.
So the next wide receiver, because there was a huge run, Dotson at 116. Now he's going to be catching passes from Carson Wentz. My fun stat for this is I heard Dotson was the best receiver in college for contested balls that were underthrown. So this is a match made in heaven because Carson Wentz is the master at underthrowing balls and causing offensive or defensive pass interferences or having his players come back. So Memphis, you saw Wentz play at the Colts, so I'm going to give you this one and your love. I'm just going to say Sam Howell's going to start sometime this year because Wentz ain't it. But yeah, go ahead.
As you look at all these guys physically, this is like obviously the new first-round wide receiver. We're getting ready to talk about an outlier physically here in just a second. All of these guys we've talked about so far, Wilson, Olave, Jameson, Williams, and now Dotson, they're all in this 5'10" to 6 foot range. They all weigh 180 pounds. It kind of feels like he meets that criteria of what the NFL is doing with wide receivers, and they clearly covet this size and speed combo.
Yes.
I'll be curious to see how they use him. It's good to see Terry McLaurin get a little bit of help. Yeah. Not someone that I'll have a bunch of in rookie drafts. That just, to your point, the combination of landing spot, and I'm just not a Dotson guy. He's fine. And then as far as Carson Wentz, it's like I wanted to believe last year. But here's the thing. You go back to the best coach you've ever had for you personally and a team that gave up extensive draft capital for you, and you can't get it done. I mean, I've seen other guys succeed in the Scott Turner offense, whether that be was it Kyle Allen, Brandon Allen, one of the Allens.
Kyle Allen. You have Taylor Heinicke.
Cleveland, Tyler Heinicke, Cam Newton to a small degree in Carolina. So I guess maybe, but I'm going to be on the outside looking in on Dotson. What about you, James?
I think it's a thing that happens with Ron Rivera. All right. He loves the small wide receiver. If anybody remembers the name, Steve Smith Sr. All right. 5'9", 195 pounds.
DJ Moore.
Curtis
Samuel.
And he transforms these guys into top-level fantasy producers. I'm not saying they're going to hit the best. They're not going to be the 101 because of the area of the field that they mainly play in. But this looks like a decent offense. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Carson Wentz for a season.
You said Sam Howell wrong.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right about that. But, I mean, Carson Wentz is going to be playing.
I was talking to somebody, a good friend of ours who works for NBC Sports Edge, and he was talking about how a lot of the people that he works with think Howell's going to come in and start just because Wentz, towards the end of the season, it seemed like every year, like your Colts literally just wanted to get rid of him. And with Howell being there, I think Howell's capable. He's got a beautiful deep ball that fits this kind of system. And like you guys were talking about with the offensive coordinator and how he works well with quarterbacks and undrafted quarterbacks. Well, Howell's projected at 101 at this time last year. Like they had Houston taking him. So there's talks that Howell could step in week 14. Memphis, once again, I know you're not a Howell guy, but you know what? They got Jelani Brown there who caught balls from the not very long ago. They've got two good receivers that are kind of burners. I think Dotson has some of the best hands. Howell can actually play well within an offense because they also have a big bruising running back they drafted in the 3rd round, I think it was.
Yeah, Brian Robinson, or are you talking about Antonio Gibson? I think
Brian Robinson. Antonio Gibson is fine, but there's alerts going up for him.
This is a team that has clearly stated over and over and over again. And when someone tells you something, you should try to listen. Washington is clearly telling you that Antonio Gibson's never going to be a bell cow. Whether it's luring J.D. McKissick back in free agency, whether it's drafting Brian Robinson, regardless, they're telling you there is not a bell cow role for Antonio Gibson. It's been made abundantly clear, and we as Dynasty gamers should be listening. Now, he still finished as a top 10 RB last year, which is great. But from a Carson Wentz standpoint, yeah, I agree. I think you're going to see Sam Howell, because the one thing all of these teams not named Tennessee are going to need to do is kind of get a 5, 6, 7 game sample. You and I both love Davis Mills. Houston clearly they saw enough in the 8 to 9 games that Davis Mills, by the way, that stat I mentioned earlier, week 14 through 18, that 5-week sample, the rookie QB who scored the most points in that time frame was Zach Wilson. Well, Davis Mills scored the second most fantasy points among rookie QBs in that same 5-week window. So these teams that'll finish in the middle-ish, like Washington, like Atlanta, I don't think you'll see much Malik Willis unless Tannehill gets hurt. They're going to want to see what they have in these guys. So for those of you wanting to take a 3rd-round flyer on a QB, you could do way worse than Sam Howell, a.k.a. the evil-looking Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and I posted a tweet, right, when Sam Howell wasn't even drafted. I said Baker Mayfield died, so Sam Howell could die as well. I mean, I personally think the bias out there is because Baker Mayfield's got an attitude problem. Sam Howell is like the twin of Baker, looks-wise, play-wise. Me personally,
size-wise,
it's perfect comp. Me personally, there could be a chance Sam Howell could be maybe have a better career than Baker. Hell, I'll say it because I really liked Howell. I know you guys all did too.
I did definitely.
I didn't hate him. I mean, this is the kind of guy that you take in the 3rd round. If I'm in tight end premium superflex leagues and I play a lot of that format, he's the guy that I'm going to push the button on in the 3rd round. Is because
he's the value this year at quarterback.
100%.
If he hits, let's say he hits as a QB versus the wide receiver that hits in that same range. If those guys both hit at their absolute apex or ceiling, who's going to give you the biggest ROI in a superflex league? It's Sam Howell. So why wouldn't I take the guy who's got the biggest ROI upside?
All right, now let's just give a quick. Where are you guys drafting Brian Robinson in rookie drafts?
The latest
mid-late 3rd.
Mid-late 3rd, okay. I was expecting a little earlier, but I would say early 3rd, just because of draft capital. And
yeah, I see him going around the early 3rd.
Okay. All right, now let's talk about that
early
physical.
To mid-3rd.
Let's talk about that physical wide receiver we're talking about. That's unlike these other ones. They traded A.J. Brown. They drafted what people comp to A.J. Brown, which I think is a lazy comp. Treylon Burks goes to Tennessee, and he also gets Malik Willis in the 3rd round. They trade up to get him, which I secretly very much love that pick. Malik Willis, Treylon Burks, Tennessee gets. They also get Hassan Haskins in the 4th, I want to say, to back up Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
What is your guys'
131 overall?
Yeah, let's talk about Burks first. What is your guys' opinion on Burks? Where do you guys have him in rookie drafts? Because there's still a lot of people that have him wide receiver 1 just based off of getting playing time.
I moved him back up. I mean, you have to take the opportunity share. And whether you like Ryan Tannehill or not, it's why I don't think you'll see much Malik Willis this year. The Tennessee Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. And Ryan Tannehill did it without A.J. Brown for a large chunk of games, without Julio Jones for a large chunk of games, and without Derrick Henry for a large chunk of games. So I think for us as Dynasty gamers, we're going to get a nice sample right off the bat of what Treylon Burks is. So I moved him back up inside my top 5 in a rookie draft, but I also understand that he is still a bust risk for me. I like the talent, but there are still red flags. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine online. His name's Theo. He's at the OG Fantasy. And, I was like, I can have him both in my top 5 and worry that he busts because he's not, we were just talking about the guys that are now like 6 foot tall and weigh $180. He ain't that. He's 6'2", 225 with quote unquote weight issues in his past. So is he a guy who goes to the NFL, eats a bunch of candy and gets fat? Like
Eddie
Devontae
Lacy.
Parker, Eddie Lacy? That's cheeseburgers, buddy. But so there are, but you can't ignore the quality of quarterback play he's going to get. You can't ignore the draft capital, and you can't ignore the perceived target volume in an offense that's pretty good. So I had to move him up to my 5, but I'll throw it back to James. What were your thoughts when you saw Tennessee take Burks at 18 overall and trading A.J. Brown?
It's definitely a step down from A.J. Brown. But I think some of us were low on A.J. Brown in the same situation. So we have to think of it as similar. He's going to be playing that similar role while Robert Woods runs all over the field if he comes back healthy, hopefully, God willing.
Yeah. And let's kind of pivot to Malik Willis, who is a third-round pick. And I really condemn the NFL. Like, I really respect them for actually sticking to their boards and not overreaching on these quarterbacks that will have to Trey Lance. They might have to wait a year. In my opinion, with Tannehill's injuries, I think we see a little bit of Malik Willis. I think the fans start turning on Tannehill, kind of how when you got that nice new toy, you don't know what it is, and say Tannehill was the reason why they lost the playoff game. Like, he played very bad. So Malik, we could have a couple cheers for Malik, by week 10, trying to get Tannehill pushed out of that offense.
I can see that only if they're not winning the division and are struggling. If winning cures a lot of everything,
yeah.
And if a team can spend 3 first-round picks on Trey Lance and bench him for an entire year, the Tennessee Titans can bench Malik Willis for a full year and let him learn from a pro. Whether you like Tannehill or not, he's a pro. He's a pro's pro. And here's a little factoid for you. Now that Matt Ryan has been moved to Indy and got a rework contract, Ryan Tannehill is the largest cap hit to any team in the NFL. So good luck explaining to your fan base how you're benching the largest cap. I think it's like $42 million or something.
Hey, Atlanta's at 41 right now, and hey, we got a lot of cap next year. We're not going to be good this year. So
I think if teams were stocks and entities, I would be, out of all the teams that are doing that, Chicago, Atlanta. Atlanta is the one that I would be buying. I'd be shorting Chicago and buying the Atlanta Falcons. I think Atlanta is secretly doing some good stuff. And when you have that dead cap albatross around your neck, I think that the Atlanta Falcons are doing some good stuff. And they're going to get Ridley back cheap. So anyway.
Yeah. I think Tennessee's hitting the reset button with Malik Willis. All right.
I think they will.
They have a potential out with Tannehill. It's a perfect situation for him. He can sit back there for a year. I mean, you look at their cap hits, they're huge. There's no way Tannehill's not playing this year. It's a $57 million cap hit.
Oh, wow. It's even worse
than I thought. It's not happening. And then they go out and pick up Hassan Haskins, similar player style to Derrick Henry. They can see they have to start rebuilding now. And this is what they are doing with Treylon Burks, Hassan Haskins, and Malik Willis.
Yeah. Where are you guys taking Malik Willis in Superflex? Where are you guys willing to pull the trigger?
Here's the thing. If I have the 111, I'm not going to pull the trigger on Malik Willis there. But in that range as a contender, you've probably got a pretty good QB room. But maybe like me, you've got a lot of Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers. And even though you may not use Malik Willis this year, he's still going to have, potential because Tennessee is going to be good. They play in a bad division. And, like I said, they were the number 1 seed last year. So they're not going to be in a position next year to draft a QB. And they probably won't have the cap money if they have to cut or move on from Tannehill to trade for a QB. So who does that leave as the starter? Malik Willis. So I think he's and they're going to have a full year to evaluate him in practice. So for me, I'm going to take him between 111 and 202.
That's actually a good range.
That's fair. That's fair. I was saying you can go all the way up to maybe 110. I would be okay with 110 because if you think about it, especially if he's not playing this year, and something happens with Tannehill next year, his value is going to be worth just as much, if not more.
And that's the crazy thing about these quarterbacks is they all didn't get the draft capital, but landed in spots that we think are very good, that are spots where they could actually get a chance. So there could be a lot of teams saving a lot of money. Speaking of saving a lot of money, we have our sponsor, Underdog. Underdog can help you save a lot of money
and win
some money by using code DHH. You go put in $20. You know what they're going to do? They're going to give you $20 right back. That's called getting free money. And when you do that at Underdog, especially with the prop bets and all this stuff, the rookies and sophomores you guys missed out on. I'm sorry. We tried to warn you guys. It's over. It was one of the funnest things to do. I loved those drafts, but you know what? I think Underdog
and redraft season starts, dynasty season, rookie drafts are on. Yeah, let's go. It's Underdog season.
Hockey playoffs. I mean, if you're up here in Minnesota, hockey playoffs are starting. Why not throw some money at it? Because you know what? You got 20 to $100 back for free when you deposit that much. And you know what? Use that free money and win some more money. It's free money. That's all it is. So use code DHH. Get your free money at Underdog app. They're amazing. I recommend them. I'm going to have a lot of fun with them this year. And Chef and I and Doug,
we've been playing already.
We're going to do some live drafts for you and all that fun stuff. All right, guys, we are going to start picking up the pace a little bit.
All right.
We're hitting the 50-minute mark. So when I say a player, we're just going to kind of talk about the general team. How's that sound? We're going to kind of do that, talk about the general team, and we're going to start off with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett went 120. So pick 20 in the draft. And you know what? He also got George Pickens. The Steelers drafted a receiver in the second round. I mean, he should be 101, right? No, George Pickens went in the second round. And I'm probably missing some players. Those are the two players that I can specifically remember. I know they got Calvin Austin in what round? Fifth?
4 or 5.
4 or 5. The Speedster, which, I mean, Ray McLeod used to be on that team, used to be a special teamer for him. So it could be that role. But let's go back to Kenny Pickett. Now, I've taken him twice at the 106, and I'm more than happy with that. You know what? It's a quarterback in a super flex league, but where are you guys excited to get Kenny Pickett? I know nobody's really excited because, you know, nobody wants
it. Depends on your team. It depends on your team. I'm going to say it 100%. It depends on your team and league format. If you are in dire straits and you need a quarterback, and the only
Baker Mayfield, Trey Lance, and Davis Mills, go get yourself some Kenny Pickett.
Go get yourself some Kenny Pickett.
Let me get this
I
straight.
took him today in a 14-teamer, right?
Yeah.
We're at
102.
102. Okay. I mean, for me, let's check some boxes real quick. Stable organization, check. An offensive coordinator that made the corpse of Ben Roethlisberger look good, check. Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Pickens, Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and now Calvin Austin. Check.
Yeah.
This is a great situation. And because they brought in Mitch Trubisky, he can be the meat shield, the heat shield for a year. as you learn the pro style game. So I had him ranked at the 107 in my post NFL draft. So 106, 107, that feels like a very good spot for a guy that's going to be given a great opportunity with a winning franchise, a winning head coach, and great weapons. Not a better spot for any of these rookies.
I love it. I completely agree. And like you said, with Pickens is a big guy. I think
great.
He's got he's got a huge upside.
Claypool
in my opinion,
better be worried.
Can you imagine Claypool and Pickens on the outside? Then you got Deontay running the slot. Well, Pat Freiermuth is also, in the middle of the field. He's going to love Pat Freiermuth, by the way. I think that's a huge arrow.
I think those are the winners.
Pat Freiermuth. Yeah.
I don't like it for Pickens or Claypool, but for those that, dink and dunk, small hand, small passing window ranges of a.
I heard he can hold a whopper, though. Plus.
I'm going to add that to my
burger. No, Pickett's burger.
I'm make an evaluation change, but this could tell me, just on a side note, that maybe Pittsburgh's not in a hurry to pay Deontay Johnson. He's also in that group of guys who's due to be paid, and maybe, just maybe, he could be a trade candidate.
Oh yeah, with the Calvin Austin, because I think a lot of people in NFL circles think Calvin Austin can be more than just a speed guy. They were saying he can go up and get it. He's got a good vert, and he's got a pretty good route tree. But yeah, Steelers I thought had a great draft, and Pickett. I think people are going to overthink the Pickett pick. He's going to fall to 109. And Memphis, you say this all the time on your podcast. People overthink quarterbacks all the time, and quarterbacks fall, and then a couple years later they sit there and go, "I should have picked the quarterback over this wide receiver."
I think quarterback more than any other position. I think landing spot matters. And again, there's not a better landing spot in the league for a young QB than Pittsburgh. Again, stable ownership, the GM's retiring, but good weapons. You can't beat it.
Yeah, I love the spot too. Let's go into the second round where we had Christian Watson at pick in the second round, pick 34. So Christian Watson goes to Green Bay. Now, there was comps of Christian Watson to Jordy Nelson coming out. I don't believe it. I thought Jordy Nelson at Kansas State was a little more refined. So if it were me, I would not believe that. Now, Christian Watson, he's an older prospect, but who cares? Because Aaron Rodgers has 2-3 more years left. So they're going to have to get along quite quickly. What did you guys think of the Christian Watson? I know they got Romeo Doubs in the 4th round, who a lot of people actually thought was a better pick at the price for the Packers. Is there any more other picks that the Packers made, the offensive skill-wise players? Not that I remember.
They had a UDFA running back that I remember, but this is going to be an interesting. You go back and I think the best a rookie has ever done in receiving yards with Aaron Rodgers is like 450 yards. Just not great, Bob.
I think it's the fact that they just want to commit to the run game and just pound the ball. That's
Give me cheap Aaron Jones.
It's like the receivers that went after Christian Watson would have been a better fit if you wanted to pass the ball. Like we had Skye Moore, George Pickens. We just talked about him. Even John Metchi. Like these guys, I had him above Christian Watson. Christian Watson was my wide receiver 13. Does he move up with being with Aaron Rodgers for the next couple of years? Absolutely.
I'm not going to go as far as to say I'm going to put him above Olave yet. I'm going to believe in talent because Watson had some easy drops. I know he tore it up in the Senior Bowl, but he still got some refining to do. And Aaron Rodgers, he focuses more on you're going to be at this spot at this time, and that's what I want. Watson's not that right now. Like he's raw as can be. And as a 23-year-old rookie receiver being raw, that's what worries me. So for me, I'd say Watson's around the late first, early second, more early second for me, actually.
I'm not going to reach for him.
Yeah, I think I have him 201 myself.
And Romeo Doubs, I think, is a heck of a player to take in the 3rd round because I think he's more refined than Watson as a wide receiver. He's more the technical side.
I'll just take all the cheap Aaron Jones and like single fantasy season best ball type plays because Aaron Jones might have 1 million check down targets.
100%. Now we're gonna go. We already talked about Breece Hall. You can go hear about the Jets talk. I also want to talk about Atlanta quick. We talked about Ritter. They also
talk about Walker.
We talk about
Kenneth Walker.
We talked a little bit about Kenneth Walker. A little bit. I think he's a better running back, and I think he plays.
And we mentioned last week. We mentioned that Chris Carson may not play.
Yeah,
because he's coming back from that neck injury.
Walker's going to step into that running back room and just he's going to wow people. And he is a Pete Carroll style of runner. I actually just traded the equivalent of Travis Etienne plus a 24-second to get Kenneth Walker. Now it's Travis Etienne for Kenneth Walker. My opinion, give me Walker. Give me the upside. Etienne, that offense worries me. But I love Walker. He is right next to Breece Hall, who we talked about. And also Tyler Algier went to Atlanta. I just want to bring that up. I hate Tyler.
When we say watch he winds up in Atlanta.
Yeah, we did. I'm excited for him as a person. You know, he's going to get some opportunity, but I'm not a fan of his play. That's what I'll say. All right.
Let's jump over to Isaiah Spiller because Isaiah Spiller was important. He fell in this draft. He got picked for 123 overall in the 4th round. He lands in the backfield with the Chargers. Now, as far as landing spot, I don't think Austin Eckler is going to do anything but what Austin Eckler does for the Chargers. I think Spiller just landed the RB2 role.
Spiller landed in a great spot. He did it a round too late, but the spot was perfect. And as much as we all really want to like Spiller, he's got that Joshua Kelly. He's got to prove it now. Like Joshua Kelly was a 4th round pick. We all liked him too. And you know what? Spiller was a little higher on people's boards. He's a little younger, so that helps. But man, he's got an uphill battle. I hope he gets that job because I really like Spiller still. That offensive line should be good. Memphis, what do you think of Spiller quick?
You said it. They're trying to find that between the tackles grinder guy. And he's the guy. He's the reason why I follow all these teams on Instagram. I want to see what he brings to rookie mini camp and to training camp. I want to see what he looks like, but definitely going to be interesting. He'll definitely get a shot, and it's not like Austin Eckler's the healthiest guy around. And he does, even though it's not enough to get drafted on day 2, he does have a 3-down skill set. So I have him in the mid-second round from a ranking standpoint.
That's not too bad. Now, James, your Giants took
awesome
Wan'Dale
draft
Robinson
in the first round.
Wan'Dale Robinson.
Not so much in the second round.
Wan'Dale Robinson, number 1 all-purpose back the year he was coming out of high school. Kid is electric. He switched to receiver. He's playing receiver finally after he moved from Nebraska. Guy's got tons of talent, but they also got Kadarius Toney, who's a very similar player to him.
Yeah.
It seemed like they're very sour on Toney, so we won't bring him up. But Robinson, what do you think about him?
$1. He's Italian, right? He's Italian. $1.
See, you think that's Italian? I think Alfredo's Italian.
No, I think he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He can move around the field pretty well. I don't know if they've figured out what they're doing with the receiver room in the Giants locker room. Or quarterback room. They are pretty much, or running back room for that matter. Like I still think Barkley may not be there before camp starts. Like I wouldn't be shocked. Like they're starting to make moves. They're working on the offensive line. They're working on the defense. I don't think they're really worried about it. They want to see speedsters getting drafted and let them season to see what they could become. And that's the same thing with like last year. Yeah, Toney was a different general manager. So that speaks something for $1 that he got picked in the second round. I'm okay with that. He got picked ahead of a lot of I'm a big fan of Skye Moore. I wish we could have every team could have just picked Skye Moore. Skye Moore is my guy this year. I'm putting my hand on him, and that's it. And he was my guy. He was my guy pre combine. He's good. Good stuff.
He's going to be the guy that when we all preach, don't focus on landing spot. He's going to be the guy where we're going to say we should have focused on landing spot.
Yeah.
Because he's a good player. And I know Memphis, you are a big fan of Skye Moore as well. What is your take on Skye Moore?
I just like the landing spot. I mean, you're talking about one of the most pass-happy teams in the league. And if I remember the stat correctly, Tyreek Hill leaves behind an average for his career, not just recently. The number would skew higher recently, but Tyreek Hill over the course of his career averaged like 7.1 or 7.6 targets per game. And that's a lot to be left behind. I mean, Wan'Dale, I like that. He's a less bursty, slot receiver. He's got great straight line speed, doesn't seem to be very, agile or a great athlete outside of being fast. So I don't know. It just feels like New York loves this weird, odd collection of random pieces and parts, and there's like
maybe Darius Slayton's done.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
just such a wild collection of pieces and parts there.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird draft for them. We already talked about Skye Moore, we talked about Pickens, but you know what? Let's talk about the Alabama receiver, John Metchi. He went at pick 44 overall in the second round. He went to
Doug's guy,
Houston. Now, Metchi is he's good. He's good at everything, not great at anything. So, in my opinion, he's probably going to be running the slot while Cooks is on the outside, and more than likely Nico Collins is on the other side as well. You guys got anything on this?
I mean,
John Metchi?
I think he adds that last piece of the pie for the receiving corps in Houston. Like, they actually have a triple threat with Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks, and now John Metchi. He's pretty fast. I mean, he went over 1,100 yards his junior year. He's not too old. 6 foot, 195. I think he can make a difference.
I'm seeing 5'11", 189. That's what the NFL likes. I'm sold. John Metchi. He must be good.
Yeah, he must be. And they also took Dameon Pierce.
I like that a little bit more, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
you hear it on tons of places. Like, angry runner, loves contact. He didn't really get too much play, but his yards per carry were great at Florida. They traded up to get him. He's the second pick in the fourth round, kind of around that Michael Carter range. I
like Damian Price. He's an all-around kind of running back, and if he gains a little bit of weight, I think he was a little light.
He's at 210 around.
210, you sure?
Yeah,
I thought he was a little bit
bigger
lighter.
Boy.
All right. Well, anyway, he can catch the ball. He can catch the ball too. So I like that.
Completely agree. Now we are hitting a little above time, but we want to give you guys, the roundabout of picks. Let's go to Trey Mcbride, tight end premium. Trey McBride. Where are you guys picking Trey McBride in rookie drafts? I still like him. He's got Zach Ertz to compete against. But you know what? Zach Ertz has another young talent like Dallas Goedert coming in and kind of teaching them the ropes. What do you guys think of Trey McBride?
I love the guy. I thought I was going to have a ton of Trey McBride. I just don't love this landing spot. It has nothing to do with Zach Ertz. I don't know though. Maybe I take that back because Zach Ertz down the stretch last year was a very productive tight end, and I think what a guy to teach a young guy the ropes. I do like McBride quite a bit in this offense. Maybe he'll be a guy that I'll be looking to add before the end of the season. I don't know how much I'll draft him. I think I have him as like a mid from like 206 to 212 in Superflex rookie draft, somewhere in that range.
All right. Yeah, that's about the range I have him. Like I had picked 205 in UDPL. I could always use a tight end. I was debating on doing that, but I traded that to move up. So I do not have that anymore.
Yeah, James. I would say if you're at a tight end premium and you just came off a win, you probably have that late second. It's not a bad idea to throw Trey McBride on your roster around there.
Now, my biggest riser, James Cook to Buffalo.
Good pick.
They could have taken a lot of different running backs. They could have gone different routes. They could have drafted one in the first round. But they went James Cook. James Cook, the pass catching. Now, rumors have it he could be playing more receiver, moving him around, doing the Alvin Kamara-esque type stuff. My opinion, I would not be shocked if he has an Alvin Kamara-esque style of rookie year. They're going to use him all over. I love this pick. You guys know how much I love James Cook, so I'm going to stop talking and gushing about it. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great playmaker option for Josh Allen. It helps spread out the offense a little bit. They were having trouble passing the ball last year. Singletary is definitely not the guy. So now they have a short guy that can run in between the tackles with Singletary, and they have James Cook that can go on the outside, catch balls, make some things happen, extra piece for the offense. It just spreads it out, and he will be utilized this year. They don't even have to use him all over the place because they still have Zach Moss for the in-between stuff. So they have all three of these guys, and I think all three of these guys actually play.
I can't believe you mentioned Zach Moss. Get out.
That doesn't mean I like Zach Moss. I'm not saying that. I would put James Cook ahead of him.
I mean, definitely. James Cook is definitely going to get what we want in fantasy. That's pass catching.
Pass catching around the goal line, yeah.
I think this is Buffalo's way of saying that, hey, we just invested like $450 million in Josh Allen, and we're tired of you running the ball, and we appreciate, but we're not going to turn you into the next Cam Newton who just gets hurt because you're the big guy. It's like, okay, cool, that was fine for the first 3 years, but now that you're our franchise guy, we're going to run you a little bit less, and we're going to run these guys a little bit more, and hopefully he can, transition. He had, and you probably didn't know this, but he had 111, at least maybe the listener didn't, had 113 rush attempts last year for Georgia.
Yeah.
And that's in the SEC. That's not bad. 27 catches as a junior last year. So all in all, not too shabby a skill set, not the biggest guy, but not the smallest either. He's a guy that moved from the mid-second round to me. I think I have him 109, 110.
So we all know you're taking him at 111.
I would not be opposed to it. But my roster actually in that league really needs, so he's not so good at that position that he's a slam dunk at any position. I really need like a young wide receiver of the future on that team. So I'll be looking more at the George Pickens, Skye Moore, not Alec Pierce, but in that range.
Yeah. We should bring up Alec Pierce as well. Alec Pierce, where did he go? He went to Indy.
Indy 53 overall.
Yeah.
And I left him off this list on purpose.
Well,
that's your team.
He's 4.4 speed guy, big guy, 6'3", but the guy that I'm really intrigued with the Colts. I mean, I think I have Pierce at the way back end of the second round. The guy that I'm intrigued by is Jelani Woods. This is a guy whose stock rised big time. He took a ton of visits with teams. 6'7", tight end. I don't know if he played basketball or not, but
yes,
him and Mo Alley Cox.
Yes,
man,
he played basketball.
Well, I mean, you think about I think Pittman's 6'1", 6'2". You bring in Pierce 6'3", Mo Alley who's like 6'9", and this guy who's 6'7". If Paris Campbell can stay healthy himself,
you're not gonna be able to see
him. Big if.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I'm not big on Pierce, but I am intrigued by Woods. I'd like to get him in a tight end premium at like 211 through 202, because those are picks that you're just hoping to get upside. And in tight end premium and 2 tight end leagues, that's the kind of home run you're trying to hit.
All right, now I want to hit Matt Corral. He was Carolina's pick. They trade back up to snag him up. Matt Corral in Carolina, it seemed like a very desperate pick, in my opinion. It seemed like they were sitting there like, okay, we're going to go in with Sam Darnold. The Baker Mayfield trade kind of fell apart. They were looking at each other. All right, Sam Darnold. And then they looked at each other again and they go, oh, nope, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're trading back in.
I think this is the way of them telling the whole league that they have no idea what they really want to do.
I think it's the perfect pick for the Carolina Panthers.
I agree.
It allows them with Ike Ekwonu, their first-round pick, to help the offensive line. I think they're going to roll Sam out there, let him get the snot
Trubisky
knocked out of him. Yeah, let
some
him,
ghosts.
Let him see some ghosts. Let him take a beating. Corral had the pretty serious ankle injury and surgery, and this is a great way to kind of platoon these guys. And I think the last half of the season, you're going to see a lot of Matt Corral, and not the worst spot. He's a guy that, again, back at the second, early third, like 302. If you take him and he hits and he ends up getting a second year, you've struck gold in a super flex.
He's going
Sam Howell or Matt Corral, Memphis.
I'm going to go Matt Corral just based on the upside. Okay. I like the weapons in Carolina, and I don't know, just by a touch.
I think he's a better
athlete.
I agree about the where I'd have him ranked. I think it's more draft capital. I don't like the player, but draft capital showed me that he's going to have a greater chance at getting a chance. So, and also I would have to say he's going to go earlier than we all think. He's got his truthers. He's got his fan club. He's going to go early second, mid second. If it were,
for sure. He's not going to be sitting around in the third. I don't think he's going to make it to the.
All right. Now I want to talk about a couple more players. We're going to talk about Zamira White, Josh Jacobs. People, if you have him on your roster, you gotta be a little worried because Jacobs got his 5th year declined, and they drafted Zamira White. Plus, you got McDaniels, who comes from a system who just loves to play every single running back every different week. So this is gonna be fun for you guys. What do you guys think about Zamira White?
This one? Not too happy about this one at all. And Georgia running back, he was the other piece to the James Cook buy.
Double ACL. He had 2 ACL injuries in college.
I mean, he was on my board as my running back 4. He's got a good 40 time. Didn't catch too much. I guess he's not going to really have to. I think they push Josh Jacobs out as a receiving back a little bit more, and let Zamira White run in between the tackles.
Speaking of running back 4, well, I got a team that drafted 4 running backs in the Patriots. Pierre Strong went to the Patriots, and that is an interesting spot. I think a lot of people actually expected this. I felt like there's a lot of people that, I mean, I swear Doug said Pierre Strong was going to be a Patriot.
Pretty sure.
So for me, it's an ugly backfield. If you have Ramondre Stevenson, I'm sorry. If you have Damian Harris, who I've gotten tons of offers for today, I'm sorry. His time is coming to an end. Patriots, they're going to use running backs all the time, all over the place. You're not going to know. And you know what? They're just going to hit refresh all the time. They're not going to re-sign them unless you're James White. And let's go over David Bell. Every analytics, every analytic and film person's favorite, but the actual
landing
testing numbers
spot.
people, the landing spot, Cleveland. Now, I was listening to Zach Reed. Zach Reed was talking. Cleveland Browns have dirt on their name. They feel dirty. They've been like that for years and years. But you know what? They have Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson can fix a lot of mistakes. He can get these players the ball. We forget about that. Like, I forget about that. I see Cleveland. All I'm thinking is bad quarterback. But you know what? They don't. They actually have a good quarterback. Who knows when he's going to play? David Bell, where would you guys take him in rookie drafts?
I think he's 209 on my board. I still like him. Not a physical freak, but he does the things that I think will make him a successful NFL wide receiver. And the fact that they've got Amari Cooper there and some good tight ends and a guy – I'm not comparing David Bell to DeAndre Hopkins, but DeAndre Hopkins was not a special athlete by any means as well.
You heard
as
it
a
here.
guy,
David Bell's DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes, write that down. But no, just look at their player metrics. Neither one of them blow you away. But I guess I've seen too much David Bell in action, being an Indiana guy and seeing him play at Purdue. He seems like a football playing dog. And it seems like the kind of player that Deshaun Watson will gravitate toward. And with Amari Cooper being a 1-year stopgap, if you will, and, no Odell Beckham, no Jarvis Landry, Anthony Schwartz isn't really a thing. I think he could end up having a nice little career where he could be like a wide receiver 2, maybe a 2-3 on your dynasty roster, and you'll get him cheap enough that he's worth a late second to me.
Damn, a wide receiver 2-3 for late second. I would do that every day.
Well, yeah, he just feels like I know the analytics crowd, the numbers are the numbers, but he's still got day 2 draft capital. Yeah. Barely, I understand that, but he got day 2 draft capital. And I think we forget how good this guy was in the Big Ten with subpar QB play. And, you face pretty good corners. I mentioned earlier that the corners in the Big Ten are better than the corners in the Pac-12. And I just think that we forget that sometimes being a good football player means playing good football. And I think I saw a lot of that with David Bell. So I'm willing to risk it with a guy who I think has upside.
Yeah. He could be Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen went in the 3rd round because his testing numbers weren't great. Keenan Allen has had a long career, a very productive career. I've turned a little bit on Bell. I didn't love his testing numbers. They weren't great. The tape is phenomenal. Like that, you turn on the tape and it's great. He's always open. Seems like he's always making plays when he's got the ball in his hands. So yeah, that could be a good play. A very good play. I didn't really think about that as like the Keenan Allen comp to me feels pretty good.
Works. Yeah. It works.
Anquan Bolden-ish. Within the team that he'll be playing, he's not going to beat you huge down the field.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think about how Houston and Deshaun Watson used DeAndre Hopkins. It's not a stretch to see them using David Bell in a similar role. Who else plays that role in Cleveland? And it's not like they're going to have the money to go out and sign free agents. They're not going to have draft picks in the next couple of years to go out and draft.
Yes.
High-end
that was
talent.
The big part. They took him in the 3rd with no draft like they had no draft picks.
That they said, this is the guy that fits what we're doing. And that's by we'll go back to Zamira White real quick. The Raiders didn't have any draft capital from their deal with, Devontae Adams. Their first pick in the 3rd round was a guard. Their next pick by the new GM and the new head coach who will probably be calling plays, and Josh McDaniel. He said, Zamira White, I need a guard and I need Zamira White. And they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Josh Jacobs. This should definitely give Zamira White a little nudge up your draft board.
Yeah, another team that didn't have too much draft capital, the Rams. This will be the last player we talk about tonight. They took Kyron Williams, everybody's early season love child. James,
my guy from Notre Dame.
Now, I have tried to trade Cam Akers a lot today. I have him in one league. He's my running back 5 in this team. I tried to trade him just to be in the draft. I wanted somebody to slide on my taxi squad. I had nobody bite. And it's all because of the playoffs and how he had like 2.8 yards per carry and the Achilles. Now, Kyron Williams comes in, and this offense is going to be very high-powered. We know that. Can he be anything being a 5th-round draft pick?
Well, how would you have answered that question if we asked you last year if Elijah Mitchell could be anything as a 6th-round draft pick? And who was the guy from the Bears? Khalil Herbert.
I loved me some Khalil Herbert.
He's literally Darrell Henderson, who's always hurt, and Cam Akers' Achilles away from getting meaningful snaps on an offense in the NFL that matters. And one that with a bit of a statue back there, Matt Stafford at 34, some back injuries. He's not mobile. He's not going to run. He's like Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was great for Naheem Hines and Jonathan Taylor. And Matt Stafford's great for the pass-catching running backs in this league. And if either of these guys has a setback, they're going to give a guy like Kyron Williams an opportunity. So,
heck of a pass blocker.
He could step right in
if
where Darrell Henderson leaves off. I think it's a perfect fit. They're almost exactly the same size. They're both 5'9", 200, 195. Darrell Henderson is.
Kyron Williams strikes me as a Sean McVay kind of player.
Yeah.
He just does, just like that. You'll hear this a lot on NFL draft podcasts and NFL games from the announcers. Hey, he's a blue collar guy from Notre Dame, hard worker. Like the narrative writes itself. Yeah, I have the 311 in our UDPL. You can always use running back. So if he's there, I'll be looking to target him there, Tyler. So you better get 310, pal.
I'm after my 201. I don't think I pick until 402 or something like that. So. We're good.
He's going to be as of now.
That's true. As of now. And you know what? Speaking of rookie drafts, there is a tool you guys can use, and it's the Nerds GM tool. Yes, you can go use code DHH, get 15% off your Nerd subscription. Use your Dynasty GM Nerds tool. You got a trade calculator and everything. Values. Use that tool for your rookie drafts. Use even Dynasty Trade Calculator's tool. They have rookie rankings up there, and they have values for rookies. All these sites doing good things, and even at Dynasty Warzone, which is where Memphis is from. So Memphis wants you to take the floor and let people know what you got.
We're just a bunch of guys talking Dynasty fantasy football. We have a show called The Rookie Rundown on Mondays. We have our buddies doing the Dynasty War Games. It's a game-based show on Tuesdays. Jerry and I do the Dynasty Warzone on Wednesday. Our redraft buddy Kyle does the Fantasy Football Smackdown. And we'll be doing some other stuff in season, just really busy in my personal life and just trying to keep the content flowing. But when you reached out and said, hey, would you like to come on? I had to make time. I consider you and James, and even though he's not here, Doug, all good friends. We had a lot of good fun hanging out in Canton last year, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. So just go over to Dynasty Warzone. You can find it on any of your podcast players or on YouTube. And we'll be recapping these rookies and some of these same guys on Tuesday night. And look forward to getting you guys on at some point here once we get the off season going.
We could collab.
We could do a lot. Yeah, we could do a lot of collaboration. We did do for our patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. We did talk about the Jiffy Lube story and a lot more, but 300 episodes on a podcast that I've been a fan of for a long time. It is a staple and an original in the Dynasty space. So thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. And you know what? Next week, like I said, we are taking the week off for Mother's Day.
Much deserved.
Yes, much deserved. My wife slid it in. She goes, "Oh, are you going to do a podcast next week?" I knew she wouldn't care if I said yes or no, but one answer she cared a little bit more about than the other. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take it off. And then we all talked to each other, and we all were in agreement that day should be a special day and made out to them.
I mean, I didn't tell my wife that I didn't have a show next week.
Hopefully she doesn't watch. But you know what?
No. I mean, it all works out for me. It's Mother's Day, it's my son's birthday, and it's my anniversary. Yeah. So it's all three in one weekend. Yeah,
he's got a lot.
I'm glad kind of that we're not doing a show. But yeah, happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there, and to all the dads out there that have to deal with all the mothers. I appreciate you, too.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Up. Shut up. But yeah, from me, James, and Doug, who is not here in Memphis, I want to thank you guys all. And until next time, I'll see you later.